Hello guys, thank you so much for the time that you were waiting for the tutorial. It took me a little bit too long to finish this one, and it was because of some freelances that I was doing with Autodesk and I couldn't actually make them time, so it took me a little bit too long to end that. And we are going to start working on the apron material, and for that we are going to use Michael Kashi technique for cloth. It's the same technique that the guys at Textures XYZ are using, Jeremy Celeste and other guys over there. For this tutorial, we are going to work on the cloth shader roll that we have here on the Patreon for the $5 patrons. As you can see, this is the result. It's still rendering, it's IPR rendering, and you can see the actual effect is quite great. And I'm rendering right now in 2K, and I want you to see the speed of this render. I have displacement map here and a lot of other nice things going on, and you can actually see the amount of detail that we have on this cloth and the resolution that we can achieve. We have noise, we have strands. You can see the actual kind of hairs on each strand, on each wave, so it's quite great to use. I'm not using transparency for this one, but I'm using translucency, and you can see that the effect is quite great, and you can change the color of each map quite easily. So we're going to work on this material from scratch, and let's see if we can do it and make it work. I had to change some parts of the node structure that Michael was using because it wasn't working for me, so I remake one of the parts. I don't know if it is a little bit more complex or not, but it works and you can achieve some nice results there even if you want the waves to move differently. So see you in a second. This is the node network that we are using for that material here. So we are going to redo this network. Let's go for cloth apron. Oh, sorry. Material redshift. Now let's go here for cloth apron. So we have our basic material. Let's apply the material to the shader bowl, and that's it. Let's render. I already have the setup for the shader bowl. You are not going to have to set up on basic scene. For this setup, I'm using an HDRI that I fix a little bit in this black and white, and 3 reg lights with basic intensities, not so much of a change here, 40, 40 and 40. So the only difference are the distance and the angles, so pretty much the same on all of them. And let's start checking the render. I'm going to remove the displacement map that I have active right now because I was using displacement map to make this cloth, but for Redshift it doesn't even matter if you are using displacement map or not because it's quite easy to use. As you can see with the shader bowl, you can make cloth materials quite easy. You can rework everything and see the actual effects of cloth. So that's quite great, and you can even make some satins and leathers and other materials that I already did with Beery, and right now I'm reworking all the cloths with Redshift. So this is the basic material. I'm going to remove the tessellation and displacement map for the moment on each of them. See. Okay, so we have everything that we need, and let's start with the actual work here. Again, for this system, what we can see here is, here you can see some of the cloth tiles that Michael did for his paper and his research. And for this tutorial, we're going to use these maps. They are weird to look at, but quite great to use. So this is how they work. You can see on michaelcutcheatart.com. He's the one that made this technique, and he's how he made it. So he has some curves and make the model. From the model, top view, top render, sit depth and projection, and how to use everything here. So it make everything flat with lenses and camera focals and passes, and for that he made the C depth. And at last he used the packing for the channels to make it work. Red and blue channels are the ID for the map, it defines the map, and the green channel has the displacement. If you work with, let me see, I think he has everything here also. The guy is from Texturing XYZ. You're going to find, let me see if he has the link, because they've sent, yeah, he's here. So if you go for Texturing XYZ and go for cloths, surface fabrics, you're going to find their fabrics. It's the same exact technique, but if you look closely, you can see some patterns over here, and I can see it here and here again, and here and here. So they do work. They are amazing. Don't get me wrong. They are great. The only difference here is that they are using the green channel for the strands of hair. They are not using the green channel for depth. So they are using the alpha channel for depth. That can give away a little bit the patterns. So we are going to use Michael's assets. You can download Michael assets, and I'm going to give everything to you. Now let's get to the. So we're back into Maya, and let me see if I put this guy over here. Yeah. So let's try to use cloth apron, and let's remove the reflection completely. So right now I have a basic material here. The first thing that I'm going to do is to create the Fresnel curve. If you work with cloth, remap value and sampler info. This is an old technique, but for cloth it's the best technique that you can really use, at least for me. So you connect the facing radio. It reads the camera angles to the face of the object and defines if it is 0 or 90 degrees, and you plug that into the input value. So you're saying that the 90 degrees and the 0 degrees are plugged into the inputs, and from that you're going to have a Fresnel curve. So here is going to be the 0 degrees, 0 degrees, and here is going to be the 90 degrees. But for that to work, you have to change input min to input max. So you have to turn that values around. And now we actually have that value done. And on Redshift, you have to connect that value to the color, to that reflection color. It's the same with V-Ray, and it's the same with Arnold. So you connect everything to the reflection color, and let me show you the actual result. And I shouldn't do that. I'm rendering, so that's why it's a little bit less faster, it's slower. So here you can actually see that if I take this value up, everything is reflective again, and if I take this value again down, the front part it's reflective, but on the sides it's not reflective anymore. Let me change. Now it's going to work even this way. So you can see that everything here is not being reflective, and everything here it's reflective, so it's actually working. But we need for a cloth that the front, it's something like this. So the front should not reflect anything, and on the sides we should have a 1 on reflections. But for the roughness, we need a value close to 0.6, 0.8. I'm going to change the color for you to see better the results. I like to use oranges. I don't know why, I kind of perceive better the orange than other values, so I like to use them. So with a value of 0 here, you can see that we have a mirror, and the cloth, unless it's some kind of weird cloth, you're going to see something like that. You are going to mostly find like values around 0.65 for the cloths. Remember that we're using and we're rendering at 2K, right? So the render times are really fast with Redshift. So if you're not using Redshift, you should try Redshift out because it's amazing. And we have at last a great color, and the Fresnel curve is working. You can see that even without anything else, it's starting to look more like cloth. Now we're going to call this guy Fresnel. If you already have seen some of my tutorials, you already know this part, so you can skip over this one. And I really like to do cloth like this. This is my basic cloth network. And for the color, I like to use a layer texture. So for color, we're going to use a layer texture, and for this kind of material, we actually have to use layer texture. So out color to out color, and we have the exact same result. The good way to work, or the good part to work with this one, let's see, color cloth. It's that we can add some new layers and some new assets to this part. So we have the color and we have the apron. Let's start making a file network. If you don't know how to make the nodes like this, it's to use tab. You just hit tab and write the name of the node that you want to create and hit enter. Not on the numeric pad, but the actual enter, because with numeric it's not going to work. I have file here, and now it's time to decide which one is the one that we're going to use. I like to start working with something that it's more visible, like the Oxford multi-map or the Heribon. So right now I'm going to use the Oxford, and let's open it. And as we said before, we have 3 values here. Red is going to be the ID for the red value. Green, it's going to be for the depth, and blue, it's going to be for the other strands that are going to be the vertical strands, and the red is going to be for the horizontal strands. So I will take this value to alpha 0, and I will add a new value here, and I will change this value to red. Actually, no. I will change this value to red, and on the input for this color, input 1 I think it is, let's apply the red color to the alpha, and let's put this guy, oh, it's rendering, still rendering, so I'm going to pause the render for a moment while I'm making connections, and I will remove this one, and I will have a white color. Okay, I did it for the wrong one, so I will have to put it here. So the red value to the alpha of the red value, and let's put on over. So you can actually see, if you hit here, you can see your texture on the material viewer. So now we have on the layer texture, the output color looks like this. So let's add a blue one. I put the colors just for you to see how it actually looks. I'm going to put the blue one here, and for the blue one I will need the input 2, I think, and select the blue channel, the out blue, and connect it to the new one. So it's not this one. I actually make that mistake a lot. So it should be this one. Yep. It's all with 0, 1, 2. And you put that one to over again, and now you have both maps here. So I have the connection of both maps, and I can change the color here. And if I go for over and put this one white, you're going to see that we have the alpha channel actually here also. If you blend or multiply the red value per the blue value and add alpha channel to, or the opacity channel to a sprite, and add the sprite, the material to the sprite on Redshift, you're going to have alpha. I don't recommend, even unless you really need to use the alpha channel, like for a curtain or something like that, don't use the alpha because it's really time consuming. Even for Redshift it could be like heavy. Remember that we're using displacement map on this one. And now that we have our shader here, this is going to be the first pattern tutorial for shading, so I hope it's not too long or I'm too extensive explaining. You can put that into the comments if you feel that way. I can make the tutorial shorter. So we have the color here, and I'm going to change this color to black, and let's render this guy out. So now we have the actual color working. We have the red color and the blue color for our material. So the color is working. We don't need anything else. If you select your node and here want, you're going to make just the view for the name. If hit 2, you're going to view the second expansion, and if you hit 3, you're going to see everything that you have on your node. So I have the color cloth here, and I'm going to remove the color cloth, and I'm going to add the reflection cloth. So for that I'm going to create a layer shader, and it's a new layer shader. No, it's not a layer shader what I want, it's a layer texture. Remember that I'm doing these tutorials live, because if not I will take too much time to make that. So this is going to be the reflection weight. Reflection weight. And this guy, it's going to have the same configuration that we did with this guy. So I'm going to remove it and edit, duplicate with connections to network. So now I have a duplicate of that, and I'm going to change the name, reflection weight. And I'm going to connect this guy to the reflection weight. What's the meaning behind this thing? Okay, let me show you. We're going to work like this. If we make the connection like that, it's not going to work because it's connecting to the alpha. So you need to make a luminance node and the out color to the value and the out value to the reflection weight. And now you can see the actual result here. So we have two values. Reflection weight, I'm going to change these values to whites. If I make the same values for both, it's going to look like that, and I don't want them to look like that. I want to have some difference on these guys. Actually, I'm going to make these guys look so much better at the end with the noise and everything, but not right now. So don't get me wrong, it's going to happen. So with that connection, you can see that's just reflection and a good reflection. And for the final one, I'm going to adjust a tiny bit of reflection to blend everything so I can see some nice values over the sides. Maybe just a tiny bit more. Yeah, I like it. So this is our reflection. The one that it's on top should reflect more when the other one it's behind, but we're going to rework that part. So now, remember that we're redoing the network. We already had the old network. Let's add the diffuse color for you to see how it actually looks. Let's put the value of, if you have everything selected, it's going to do that thing. So don't try to select everything. So cloth apron and reflect color and out color and 3. And this guy, it's going to go for color. So now you can see that we have reflection on some values and we have less reflection here and more reflection here. Now it's subtle, but we can see the results. And for a tip, you can work with luminance when you're working with that values like that, and you're going to see better results. We're working and seeing the details. For reflection in black and white, the eye can see better the tones and the changes when you're working with black and white. So now that we have everything there, it's time to adjust the Fresnel curve. I'm going to remove this guy, and I'm going to remove also, where's the cloth? The weight. So it's the luminance. I'm going to remove both, and let's work on the Fresnel curve. I'm going to leave on linear both sides, but for the angles that I'm going to create now, I'm going to make them go for splines. So now you can see that the curve is smoother than it was before. And I can achieve better results here. I'm going to make this value a little bit higher. I want more reflection on the front, maybe just a tiny bit of reflection over here. Okay, I have the reflections there, as you can see. Let me see if I don't have any, the weight is too low. Yeah, the weight is too low, so I'm using so much reflection now. When I disconnect the other value, it make the weight too low, so right now it's burning everything. It should not burn. I have to see the values, but I don't have to see everything. Maybe it's too much over there. Okay, it's perfect. I have the sides, I have the front, a little bit less on the front, maybe even a little bit less over here. I really like how it looks. So the Fresnel curve is done, and for that I will reconnect. Now we have the right values, and let's go back for the RGB channels. Now we have the actual channels, and it's time to rework the other part of the network. For this part of the network, this is the easy part that we already have. I will break the tutorial in 2 parts, I think. So we have this part already. Now it's time to start working on the displacement map. For the displacement map, it's quite easy. So we just need to add the displacement shader brand. I'm not going to do that way. I'm going to use this displacement and add the value straight away. So it's going to create everything and just unplug everything. And as we said, the out green value, it's going to have the displacement information. And for that, I'm going to remove again the color, but this time I'm going to remove it, making it gray 50, or the same gray value. So that way I'm going to have the same value for all the things, and I don't have to remove anything. So that's the value that we have there. I'm going to put this guy here. So let's close. I didn't want there. It's weird to use this guy sometimes. Well, let's leave it here. I'm not used to the new interface yet. So we have the displacement map here. It's time to replug the displacement map again. So I'm going to shut the render there. I'm going to enable the tessellation and enable the displacement map on each of them. I'm using the default tessellation and the default displacement map for everyone, but for this one, for this part here, I'm using 0.005 and on displacement scale 0.05. Why? I don't know, but that one is weird, so be aware. Now that I have my render here, let's save this guy and let's render again. And now it's going to take a little bit more when it's translating the meshes with the displacement map, because we have like a really high subdivision here. And you can see that now we have the actual map here. It's going to look weird. Yes, of course it's going to look weird. We have a massive size. So now we need to add and to fix the sides. For this guy, you need to be sure that the look is correct, that the ones that are on top look like on top and not downwards, because you will need to fix that on the displacement maps. But it's working. So we need to fix the amount of repetitions. For that, Michael again with a great tip. It's like repeat B and repeat U, just connect both. You're going to have the connection here. We like to repeat U and repeat B. So when I change B to 4, the other one is going to change. So there's a lazy tip from him, really cool tip. And now we're going to start seeing some details here. I can adjust to 10. And everything is working. Remember that if I change the color again, it's going to change on everything, because the same map, this guy here, it's the one that it's going for the reflection weight, and it's doing it for the cloth, and it's doing the same for the displacement map. So if I change that basic texture with another map, it's going to work again. So you can see here the results. It's looking quite nice. Yep, starting to look great. Now I'm going to stop the render there, and we have another level done for the cloth material. Now let's add a little bit of variation to the actual reflectance, so the reflectance weight. I like to use a fractal texture. You can use a noise, a fractal, anything that you want. And I'm going to create a redshift basic material for that, and out color to diffuse color. And the scale of everything on this guy, it's the same. So I'm going to select just the top and assign existing material, and it's a redshift material 3. And let's render that out with IPR. It's the only part that I need. And let's connect and let's fix a little bit our fractal here. Remember that we are going to make this one as a mask. So just we need some ratios and to make him look okay. I hate that from Redshift, that when you change something, it does not remember the position of the render. I hate that. I have to tell the guys that I really hate that. But it's okay. I like that map. It's not that bad. So I'm going to add this map to my reflection weight. So I'm going to take it here, put it on top, and put the map on multiply. I'm still rendering, so it's translating the scene each time that I do some changes. So now I'm going to connect the out values here to the color here. So I'm going to see the actual render working here. I hate that stackable thing. See? So now let's remove the weight from the reflections. We have a map with some parts that are darker. Too much, I think. But that's quite easy. I just need to reduce the alpha of the connection on the texture and the layer texture shader, and now you can see that we have that noise quite subtle, and this is going to look great when you do your renders because you're not going to see it, not that much, but that's the key for realism. You can have details that not everybody is going to see, and they are going to help you a lot to blend your materials, because that's how you break your geometry, you break your patterns, and you need to break your patterns if you're working with something like this. So it's not that hard, it's not bad to use this kind of sheets. Actually, you can even add some actual noises, some actual colors, some tints, something that you want to add here. You can add anything. So if you want to add some drops or something that you want, some scratches, even on the cloth, you can add that kind of stuff. And that's why I have everything with the reflection maps. After that, I'm also going to add the same map to the color cloth. Why? Because the reflection weight, it's going to do the same for the color cloth, and I'm going to force and to make this guy to do the same here. So I'm going to make and put everything on multiply, and again I'm going to put a subtle value. So on the darker colors, for the roughness and the weight, it's going to look even darker now because I have also the color there. So I'm going to connect now we were seeing the other map, so now we're going to see the actual color here. It's great. So you can see some blends, some subtle spots here and there, and they're going to help a lot on the render. So again, let's connect the actual material, not the tester, and let's render this guy, and let's see how it's looking now that we have the render. So it's subtle, but you can see here we have some dark spots. You can even add some curvature maps if you want, if it is like an old sofa, an old couch or something like that. If we look the old render and the render with displacement, you can see that now we have a lot of new information here, and I quite like this new information. So the maps are starting to work. So let's save this render, and we have the color, we have the apron, we have almost everything already, but we need to add the good details that are the other parts that you can see here. They're not that complex, but I think I will leave this part for the next tutorial, so you can see and check this part until here, and you can check the second part with care, because it's a little bit tricky to make the second part.